I'm Jack Kennedy, and we're here to bring you the latest in MMA.
Hey everybody, my name's Hunter Boss, and what the boss says goes.
What is up everyone, my name is Keelan McNamara, and you already know what time it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MMA Island podcast. I am Jack Kennedy alongside Keelan McNamara and Hunter Boss, and we are here with another episode of the podcast. Let's go ahead and get right into it with the news. And today we are talking about Dan Hooker, who has made a surprising decision to go down to 145, the featherweight division. He's called out some people. He said he can make the weight. He's shown he can make the weight. Hunter, what do we think about this?
I might be in the unpopular opinion here and saying I kind of like the weight change. I wanted to test out the waters down in featherweight. I know he's been there before. He didn't have much success there before. But now he's fought the best of the best when it comes to lightweight. You know, he's fought Dustin Poirier, he's fought Paul Felder, Michael Chandler, Islam Makhachev. I think the skills he's learned from all those fights will do him a lot of justice in the featherweight division. So do I hate the change? No. Do I think he should have stayed at lightweight? I don't know. He wasn't getting much success, and he really does have a great skill set. So I want to see that being utilized more. So if he moves down to featherweight, there's some good matchups there. I really like Arnold Allen as a good matchup there. So
yeah.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm really impressed that he made it back down to 145. I didn't think we'd ever see him back down there again. So first and foremost, I think that's the point that should be stressed the most out of this before we even think about who he's going to call out and take on. The fact that he made it to 146 and made it look pretty easy is extremely impressive. So credit to Dan Hooker for that, because that takes a lot, especially for a guy who was quite skinny for 155. To be able to cut 10 more pounds off of that, really, really big stuff. So fair play to him for that. As for what I think of the move down to 145, I'm sort of in between where Hunter is and where the majority of people are. I certainly don't hate it, not at all, because if he can make it the weight, then kudos to him. That's his right, and he should be able to go down there if he can make the weight. That being said, do I think he's going to have much more success at 145? I say this with the greatest of respect to Dan Hooker, but I don't think he will. The problem is that Dan Hooker is caught in between two of the most shark-infested divisions right now, which is 145 and 155. And Hunter named some of the great fighters that he mentioned that he's fought at 155, and that was entirely accurate, but he's only beaten one of those four.
Yeah.
The other three, Makhachev, Gaethje, Makhachev, Chandler, and Poirier, he's lost to all of them. Again, no mean feat because they're all great lightweights and they're all top of the food chain, but he has lost to all of them. And despite what he will have taken from those fights, and he will have taken a lot, can we really say that he's going to be able to apply that to a Giga Chikadze, a Max Holloway, a Yair Rodriguez? I have to be totally honest at this point. I don't know if I can see it. I think the easiest way to resolve this whole thing is give him a top 10 opponent, but towards the lower end of top 10, like an Arnold Allen. I think that's actually a great shout, Hunter. I'm fully on board with that as well. If he's able to do really good against Arnold Allen, that'll tell us much more about where we are with Dan Hooker. But at the moment, it's sort of impossible to say because Dan, as you said, Jack, has been at 145 for so long, been at 155 for so long. So now we can't really gauge where he's at because he's been out of those waters for that period of time. That being said, I'm excited to see what he can do. If he can make it, props to him. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting, and I like where you guys are coming from this. I like his mindset where he's looking to reset. He's looking to change the course of what's been going on because honestly, if you look at the way his career trajectory has been going, it's not been going in the right direction. Now, he got a great win against what's his name? The dude who looks like Nasrat Haqparast. He got a great win against him. But he lost following to Islam Makhachev, who is the guy that you're going to have to beat to get to the top. He's at the point where he's in an almost limbo spot at lightweight where he will win against most people below him, but he's not going to win against the upper competition. Or if he is winning against low competition, you have to argue for him to get a shot against that higher competition. Much like a Derek Brunson spot, in my opinion, he's about to fall into
Gatekeeper.
in lightweight, where he's just gonna be a gatekeeper because how do you argue giving him just these rematches to get the title shot? You really can't at this point. So I like where his head is at. And honestly, this might be the most logical move to go forward. Because even though he is 6 feet tall, I think he's the perfect lightweight. His body is made for lightweight. He's 6 feet tall, but his body's not big enough. He's not big enough for welterweight. He is sandwiched in between the worst divisions, the most difficult divisions in the entire UFC, and featherweight, lightweight, and then you have welterweight right above it. He can't compete at welterweight. That's out of the equation. He's way too small for those guys, and the wrestlers, especially in that division, they will eat him alive. 155, he's about to fall into that limbo spot, which I guess you can, but it'll take at least 1.5 years, maybe 2 years to get out of that spot. So I don't know if he's willing to do that. Now, he's fought at 145 before. Now, here's my opinion on this. And we talked about a little bit before. I don't think this will work out for Dan Hooker. I think his options are slim, and I like where his head is at, and this might be where he has to go. However, he's fought at 145 before, and there is one thing testing if you can make 145 without, actually being in a fight camp. And there's another thing making 145, dehydrating yourself, knowing that you have a fight the following day after weighing in. That takes an enormous toll on you on fight day. And I think we will actually see it if, he decides to fully commit and go down to 145. I think that will be a massive factor because I really think his body is perfect for 155. 145 is just, he's going to be 6 feet tall at 145, which is insane. And he's going to, his body type, I don't know. The other thing is too, when you go down to 145, look, his power will translate and probably be one of the more powerful 145ers in that division. And the height and reach will be heavily in his favor. However, what will he give up in that situation? One, his head is going to be more likely to get rocked, which his chin has been questionable since the Dustin Poirier fight because of what happened in that and the Chandler fight and following. So his chin's going to be, more deteriorated because of the weight cut. He's going to be facing guys that are faster and quite possibly physically stronger than him because they're going to be more healthy in there whenever they're facing him, and of course faster. So when you talk about matchups, he was calling out the Korean Zombie, and if I'm Dan Hooker, I love that. You call out some of the top guys. However, I do not think the Korean Zombie is who he will get first or who he should get first because the Korean Zombie is up there and always has been up there. I love the Arnold Allen pick. I think that would be a very logical decision. However, for Arnold Allen's career, I don't know if he'd be looking for a Dan Hooker right now. It'd be a name, but he wants someone to keep progressing him further and further up in the 145-pound division, which the name would be great, but that rankings-wise might not bump him up that much. I think for Dan Hooker, a perfect fight, and he's also going to, also from Dan Hooker's point of view, right? He wants to be facing someone that maybe might not be the most challenging matchup at 145 right now, especially your first fight coming back, feeling it out a little bit. I think honestly, a guy who just got a win and it shows that he is kind of like Dan Hooker in a way where they're just tough grit, go forward, take shots to give him. I like Shane Burgos for a matchup against Dan Hooker. I think that would be perfect. He's really I think he's 13th out of 15th in the featherweight rankings, maybe 14th, right at the edge there. I know it's not ideal for Dan Hooker, but you're going to a whole nother division again, a division where before you did not have success at. So you had to move up to 155 to feel it out again. I agree with you guys. I think Dan Hooker is absolutely a new fighter now, but the weight cut, I'm not a huge fan of going down to 145. However, I do understand that the options are very slim for Dan Hooker. So I do appreciate the change, but I don't think it'll work out. And my pick for him, who I think he will fight, is probably Shane Burgos for me.
I like it. I like Shane. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, out of his last 4 fights, he's lost 3 of them. So maybe a 13th ranked fighter is not a bad idea. So Maybe the other option, he could pull the John Jones route and he could just bulk up a shit ton and go to heavyweight. Imagine Dan Hooker at heavyweight. He'd be like he'll be taller than DC. I'll tell you that. So I mean, it'll work. It'll be fine.
Well, Alexander Volkanovski can help him out with that, right? Didn't
exactly. There we go. Yeah, we got some thinking.
There we go.
Over
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
I hear you.
Exactly.
Oh my God. That's just a bunch of madness right there, Hunter. Stranger things have happened, so why not? Volkanovski was 220 when he was a rugby player, we have literally seen stranger things happen. Yeah. I really like, Jack, where you went with that, because I'm probably more in your sphere of things right now, perhaps, than Hunter is. I think Shane Burgos is actually a very good shout. We're all in agreement that he needs someone in the lower end of top 10 to get in the field of things and to get back into the rhythm of 145. Burgos is 13th, but he's bigger than a lot of the names at featherweight right now. Like, for example, Arnold Allen is on an absolute tear. Great fighter. I'm a big fan of him. But if you wanted to mention a name that people are more likely to know because of style and so on, people probably know Shane Burgos more than they know Arnold Allen at this point. So in terms of a name and in terms of style, that actually makes a lot of sense. And that could well be who Dan Hooker targets. My last thoughts on Hooker's weight cut are a bit like this. Dan Hooker is in a very similar position to Kevin Holland. That's where my parallel is drawn from.
I like that.
And yeah, you probably know where I'm going with this, but I'll say it really quickly just in case there's anybody out there who doesn't. Going down in weight does not affect the issues that you had at your normal weight division. Those issues don't just go away because you're going down in weight. Like, for example, we talked about this last week, actually. Kevin Holland's going down to welterweight, and that's great because if he can make the weight, then again, that's perfect. He walks around 185 anyway, so it probably makes sense to a degree. The problem is just because he goes down in weight, wrestlers don't suddenly vanish off the face of the earth. And that problem's the exact same for Dan Hooker. He fought a wrestler, Michael Chandler, who used his wrestling so well to disguise the knockout blow that he landed on Dan Hooker and tested his chin, as Jack said. The Islam Makhachev fight, we all know what happened. Admittedly, that was a short notice fight, but it still adds to the point that I'm making. The point is this: Dan Hooker's weight should not be his issue. His weight class should not be his issue. His skill and his wrestling should be his issue. If he can sort the wrestling, he can stay in any division that he wants because his striking is good enough to make up for that. The problem is going down in weight does not suddenly evaporate the entirety of the style that you hate fighting. And realistically as well, even though I'm a big Dan Hooker guy, I've always been a big fan of him, we all are. There's only so many striking opponents you could fight before you have to climb the ranks and fight those wrestlers that you avoid. So at the end of the day, one way or another, Dan Hooker's going to come back to the exact same crossroads that he's at right now at 155. If I'm him, I'm focusing more on the wrestling side of my game, not changing division. Now, in this case, division change perhaps makes sense because he is stuck in the mud and in limbo at 155 and has been for a year or two. But if this were any other scenario, I'd be advising him to stay at his division and work in the game, not in the class.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm still stuck on Hunter's decision though, or opinion though. I love it. We might have cracked the code to finally getting John Jones an opponent at heavyweight.
There we
John
go.
Jones
That's what I was thinking.
Heavyweight. I mean, that'll do it, right? That'll bring John Jones back.
This is what it's come to, John. Look at what you've made us do. You've made us bring Dan Hooker up 50 pounds because you won't fight anyone.
If John Jones isn't going to take the freaking Stipe fight, then is he going to take Dan Hooker? I don't know.
Hooker. Come on. I love it. Well,
we might have to bring DC out of retirement.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, let's see what happens. Maybe Dan Hooker after 145 will move up to heavyweight. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Let's move on to
Dan Hooker.
Let's move on to the best of the best. And today we have a very interesting topic. We're talking about canceled fights. What is the best canceled fight that we never got to see but we wish we could have seen? Obviously, probably excluding Khabib versus Tony Ferguson because that is everyone's answer. But aside from that, what do you think, Hunter?
So this one's really recent. And this is because the one I'm going to list off, he's one of my favorite fighters. So whenever a fight of him gets announced, I get giddy just thinking about it. So when I heard it got canceled, I think I got heartbroken there for a second. Jorge Masvidal versus Leon
There it
Edwards.
is.
How can I not mention that one? This is bad blood and in the making. It was back in 2019, backstage, Jorge Masvidal and Leon Edwards got into like a skirmish, and that's where the famous line "3-piece in a soda" comes from. It's a lot of fun just to think for the buildup for this fight, and then how awesome the press conference would have been, and how much fun the actual fight itself would have been because it's bad blood between the two. Nobody doesn't like bad blood. And with Jorge Masvidal, he's got a lot of people he's got bad blood with. So
Yeah.
this fight would have been awesome to see. And I'm really disappointed it got canceled. And I don't think it's going to get rescheduled either because I think Leon Edwards is going to fight Usman next now, as well as I think Masvidal is leaning towards Covington. Maybe for an Ultimate Fighter season or just a regular fight. Either one. I'm looking forward to it, but I definitely would have liked to see some Leon Edwards action. They got unfinished business.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm starting to wonder if Jorge Masvidal has good blood with anyone.
Yeah, it's tough to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think he is bad blood with his own family at this point, probably. His Thanksgiving probably just is that.
It's a 3-piece and a soda. That's what he's bringing.
That is literally what they serve in the Masvidal
For everybody
household.
too, yeah.
For everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really great pick, though, and I certainly share Hunter's heartbroken sentiments with that because that's a fight we need to see. But my fight, I'm going big. I'm going really big. I'm going John Jones, Anthony Rumble Johnson at 205 big.
Okay.
I cannot tell you how much I was looking forward to this fight back in the day. Jones, probably the best light heavyweight of all time, against the scariest light heavyweight of all time, and Anthony Rumble Johnson, the man with a wrecking ball of a right hand. I mean, do you guys remember the press conference for this when they punked out Dana?
Of course. Yeah.
And then they dabbed up. It was funny.
And Dana White nearly had an aneurysm trying to break it up.
What's Dana White going to do in between those two? I mean, come on. That's
whatever he was going to do against Tito, I guess.
He's been training for it.
That was an amazing line by you. No, I mean, there's a lot of fights that have been cancelled before that we really wanted to see. And if we hadn't have been able to pick it, Tony Khabib would have been everybody's pick. Yeah. But this fight would have been so good back in the day. It's transpired throughout John Jones's recent appearances in the octagon that his stand-up has been his biggest weakness, especially his boxing defense. And stand-up was always Rumble Johnson's greatest asset. And I think if we'd have known then what we know now, that would have made that fight even more intriguing than it already was. And that fight was a fever pitch when it got cancelled. So that would be my main pick. My honorary pick is actually stemming out of Khabib and Tony, and that's Max Holloway and Khabib. Now, for those who remember,
I remember when he stepped on at short notice. It was crazy.
Yeah, and Holloway was willing to step up from 145 on 7 days' notice to fight Khabib.
Was it even 7? I thought it was less than that.
Actually, you know what? I think you're right. I think it was like 3 days.
Yeah, I think it was 3 days. Yeah. It was like the weigh-in was the next day, and then he couldn't do it. Yeah.
For those who somehow for those who don't remember, and you're entirely forgiven for not remembering, in the build-up to this fight, there were like 4 different opponent changes for Khabib in the space of 7 days. Tony pulled out, then they pulled up Max Holloway to fight, and for whatever reason, the New York State Athletic Commission refused to clear him to fight. Then they had Paul Felder, who was ranked too low, so they wouldn't let him fight. And then they got Ali Aquinta to fight him. For those, if you remember how that chain of events transpired, still breaks my soul to this very day every time I think about it. But that's my sort of honorary mention because I think that would have been a really, really good fight. I actually think, if I'm not wrong, that would have been our first time seeing Max at 155 against Khabib.
Yeah.
That would have been such an interesting fight to see. That would have been attack versus defense. That would have been kickboxing versus wrestling. So those are my 2 picks, and I'm really intrigued to hear what Jack has.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Those are all out of the box. I mean, I think I have some strong opinions about who would have won each one of those. I think John Jones would have won.
We all do.
And I think, I mean, Habib versus Max. I love Max Holloway. Max Holloway is probably my favorite fighter going right now. But
It's hard to say. Max has the highest takedown defense in featherweight history right now.
yeah,
So
but Habib's
it's hard
basically
to
a
say.
170 pounder fighting at
That
155.
is
Though. And
true. That is
That
true.
is true.
there's regular wrestling, and then there's Habib Dagestani
Yeah,
wrestling, which
that's
no one can
the
stop.
mountain wrestling. You know,
Yeah.
it goes above everything else.
Yeah.
There's wrestling, there's college Division One wrestling, there's Olympic wrestling, and then there's I'm gonna smash your boy wrestling.
Yeah, raised in the caves. You know, it's
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I love those so much. Well, mine is actually very recent as well. And I'm glad Keelan said those because those were out of the box and I loved them. I'll say two. One is recent and one involves with Leon Edwards as well. And this is Leon Edwards versus Hazmat Chimaev. That was supposed to be booked so many times. This is one that we've said the phrase knowing what we know now. I think knowing what we know now, this fight was already highly anticipated. Knowing what we know now, that fight would have been unbelievable, and it still would be unbelievable if they would have let him step in after Masvidal, which I wish would have happened, but they didn't let him do it. Uh, oh my goodness, Hazmat Chimaev has really turned into one of the most dangerous threats we have ever, one of the most dangerous prospects we've ever seen in the UFC. I say, and the rise is since Conor McGregor, I haven't seen a rise like this.
Yeah.
4 fights, and the guy is already talks for title contention. It's crazy, and he's backing it up. He's only taken what 4 punches in his entire UFC career. That's unreal. How is that possible? Who knows? But he's doing it. Leon Edwards, really, except for that punch against Nate Diaz, which is why he's in all this controversy and didn't automatically get the title shot next, has been thrashing people since he came back. He has looked as sharp as ever and as technical as ever, and he has power behind his punches as well. How does Chimaev deal with the stand-up? How does Leon Edwards deal with the absolute wrecking ball that is Hazmat Chimaev? I wish we could have seen that. I hope we can see it in the future. But man, I don't know if they'll cross paths again, but that was supposed to be a fight night too. That would have been unreal, and especially for the stakes of the welterweight division. I wish we could have seen it, but events played out, and we're here where we are. And but
I don't. If I was Leon Edwards, I don't think I'll take that fight. Now, knowing what I know now, I would avoid that fight at all costs.
Yep.
But by the way, I do have a little honorable mention here.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier. Was a really good one. That would have been such a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
I just thought of it, so like I would have mentioned it, but I forgot. So here it is now. Would have been a fantastic fight.
Was that fight meant to be a 165?
It was a catchweight, I think. I think it was a catchweight, yeah. Because that was before Nate Diaz went down and faced Anthony Pettis, which then led to the BMF fight. So
That's right.
And that Nate Diaz was dangerous too. The one against Anthony.
He was an angry Nate Diaz.
Yeah, it was. So he was out to prove something. So yeah, that fight would have been unbelievable. Yeah, I love it. Well, my honorable mention is a fight that actually did take place eventually down the line. However, not in the way I think it would have taken place. If
I know what it is.
You know what it is? All right, we'll see.
It's everybody's dad. Everybody's dad, right?
No.
Chael?
No.
Chael and Vanderlei?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Shoot,
No.
I'm wrong. Sorry.
It's shocking. But
Okay.
Alexander Gustafsson, John Jones too. Now it happened.
Okay.
It happened, but way down the line where Alexander Gustafsson was not in his prime anymore, and John Jones coming back. I really think if it happened when it was supposed to, which was 6 months after the first one, or maybe longer, within a year after the first one, but John Jones tested positive for whatever he tested positive for. Maybe that was the hitting pregnant lady incident. It was one of the John Jones saga thing that took place. And then it never happened. Then Alexander Gustafsson stepped in and said, okay, I'll do a fight night against Rumble Johnson. And we all know what happened after that. Anthony Johnson finished him and went on and then should have got the title and more drama at the top. And that fight didn't happen. Then I won't get into that. But I think if that Gustafsson fight happened with Jones immediately after, we could have been in for another classic fight. And how John Jones would have dealt with that so quickly, how Alexander Gustafsson really could have. What he did in the second fight, whenever it actually happened, was way overcorrected from the first one. And the fact where he didn't throw anything in the first 2 rounds and tried to turn it on late, but it was too late. I think if his mindset was still fresh from that first one, he still was in it, still in, the feeling from the first one, that fight could have gone a lot different. And I wish it happened. I think the timelines, those were two different fighters whenever it eventually happened. I wish we could have seen the same fighters that fought in the first one fight in the second one. And so that's my second mention. But man, I love that Diaz Dustin Poirier shout out. That is phenomenal. I wish we could have seen that. Hey, we might see it in the future too. That's
Maybe.
one.
We've heard it.
Yeah.
But it might be Ferguson instead, though. So, which I would not be disappointed with. So
That's just as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If not better, because these guys will be bleeding. They will be bloody.
Make it a 10
Oh my
round
god,
fight.
the mess on the canvas. The poor guy the day after has to clean it. Just throw the whole thing out.
You're throwing it away. You're throwing that one
you're
away.
You're throwing it out. It's done.
Yeah.
Used canvas for sale.
I'd sell it. I'd like cut off a piece of it, and then I'd be like, "This is both Tony and Diaz's blood. So who wants it? You know,
just combine those two, and you make the ultimate human being.
$10 million.
We're calling the next fighter.
yeah, exactly. Well, I love it, guys, and let's move on to the discussion of the week. And we're talking Thanksgiving. Yes, also. For the U.S., for people of the citizens of the United States, it was Thanksgiving this past Thursday. And so, yeah, it's after, but we're still talking about it. We got a Thanksgiving segment in there, right? We have to talk about it. What fighter are we most thankful for in this calendar year of the UFC? Hunter, what do you think?
All right, there's a lot of good options here.
Yeah.
But for me, I have to go with Michael Chandler, I think.
Yeah,
I think Michael Chandler is one of the most how do I put it? Violent fighters and crowd appeasing that I've ever seen step into the octagon. I mean, he sells a pay-per-view like no other, and he backs it up. You know, he went just with that Justin Gaethje fight. He went out there and he put on a show. With the Charles Oliveira fight, no one really knew or wanted this title interim title shot, belt with these two fighters. But Chandler made sure, hey, you guys want to see this. This is going to be one of the greatest title shots that you guys will ever see. And then he's selling this pay-per-view, and he goes out there and he puts on a fantastic performance again. And he's just so much fun to watch, and he's great to listen to as well. I have to say Michael Chandler right now.
Yeah, that's an amazing pick, and no one will ever argue with that. And to be honest with you, before I get on to my pick, Michael Chandler is an unbelievably intelligent fighter.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you why he's unbelievably intelligent. The fact that he is in a fight of the year contender in every fight that he fights means that he could be on a 10-fight losing streak and he'll always be in the title picture as long as he's in the UFC. And I want to give him credit for that because that is such a smart tactic. Whenever he came in, and Michael Chandler's always been an incredibly intelligent guy. He's very eloquent. He speaks very well, as you guys know. And everybody thought this was just some BS media thing. And he'd go out and he'd wrestle everybody and win 5-round decisions. And he's been more exciting than a lot of strikers this year. So massive credit to Michael Chandler. I would actually agree with that shout, if not for my pick. And my pick is Dustin Poirier. We all love Dustin Poirier here, and I'm a really, really big fan of Dustin, especially because not only his story and his career, but especially this year too. There's many things that I'm grateful for with Dustin Poirier. I think he embodies a true mixed martial artist. I think he's unbelievably good to his community. His charity work is commendable. And I think he's an all-around amazing human being. He's got a lovely family who he always takes pride in. He's always protective of them. They're always around him. And I think he's got a great group around him as well. But to be totally honest with you, and this is going to sound really contradictory, especially coming from me, the reason I'm most grateful for Dustin Poirier is that he shut Conor McGregor the F up twice this year, which he fully deserved. I mean, the first time in Abu Dhabi in UFC 257, that was a friendly affair, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to lie to anybody. I wanted Dustin to win because I liked Dustin and I wanted him to even that score. And I'm happy that he did. But the moment that I'm happiest for is UFC 264. And, we covered this ground already. We spent nearly an hour and a half long episode on UFC 264. I'm not going to go back over that because emotions will come out again and we don't want to see that. The main point that I make, though, is this. Conor McGregor stepped way too far over the line with a lot of the things that he said and a lot of the things that he did. And he deserved a smacking. And quite frankly, he deserved what happened to him. And I'm delighted that it was Dustin Poirier that did it to him, because Dustin has never said anything about Conor. He's always been a class act and he's always been respectful. And he did not deserve the barrage of abuse that he got. And he did not deserve, a crowd of people chanting that at him at the press conference either. One of the other things I was grateful for was that he verbally obliterated him as well, because he got knocked the F out. McGregor fast, McGregor sleep. If you forgot, now you know again. The point of the matter is this: McGregor needed to be destroyed, and there was only one person who could have done that, and there's only one person that did do that. It might sound contradictory, it might even be controversial coming from me, but by far the fighter I'm most grateful for Thanksgiving for 2021 is Dustin the Diamond Poirier.
Well, dang it, Keelan. I'm wearing a Dustin Poirier shirt right now. I have the hot sauce behind me, and you take that pick from me as well. I mean, this happens every podcast, but we'll take it, all right? We'll take it. So I agree with you. But here's another mention that I will say, and this will be my pick. And you really can't go wrong. So let me start with an honorable mention. I'll say Yuri Prochazka. He only had one fight in 2021. However, every single time he fights, it's worth 3 fights from the average UFC fighter, because it's unbelievable. Yuri Prochazka, honestly, I'm just thankful that you're in the UFC, and I'm thankful for you as a fighter, because you were unbelievable, and you're gonna be fighting for the title next against Glover Teixeira, and I cannot wait for that. My pick though, we'll go Max Holloway. Max Holloway fought at the beginning of the year, and delivered the most dominant performance I think I've ever seen in my entire life against Calvin Kattar. I mean, gave me goosebumps after watching, and it was crazy. And he proved that he was probably the best 145er on the planet. Then he goes out, he's looking for a fight, never happens. Volkanovski fights Ortega, fights gets delayed. Then he fights. He's like, you know what? I want to fight. Fights Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez comes to fight, and they deliver one of the best 145 fights of the year in itself. It's an unbelievable war. Max Holloway is really tested in that fight, but wins out probably 4-1, 3-2. And it was unbelievable. And now he's probably going to be fighting for the title next. Who knows? Honestly, who knows what he's going to do next? Like, he's calling out a bunch of people. Conor, honestly, could be next for Max Holloway at 155. Delivered 2 phenomenal performances, and another guy that when I look for fighters that I'm most thankful for, I'm not looking for the best fighters. I'm looking for the most entertaining fighter, which is why I love that Max Hall or the Michael Chandler shout. I love that so much, because he's out there. Same reason I love the Dustin Poirier shout, and guys like Max Holloway and Yuri Prochazka embody that, and they just go out there every single time, put on a show, and are winning fights too, which is unbelievable. So those are the fighters I'm thankful for: Max Holloway, Yuri Prochazka. But there's so many fighters. I'm just thankful for the UFC this year. I mean, we still have a full month ahead of us, and Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira. Oh my goodness, it keeps getting better. I'm just thankful for it. I think honestly, this might be the best year the MMA has ever had, as far as events and everything. You go back and listen to any of the podcast episodes, and we're talking about a phenomenal fight night, or just the fights to come. I mean, the end of year review, whenever we do that, like we did last year, is going to be ridiculous for this year, because it's going to be crazy recapping everything that happened. So those are my fighters, and just thankful for the UFC and MMA in general this year for sure. Yeah.
Actually, Jack, what I'm going to do is really quick. You can kind of have Dustin, because I completely forgot to mention Corey Sandhagen.
You didn't take your guy, man.
He's been a savior.
Oh no.
Yeah. The guy who lost every major fight that I backed him in. But you know what? I still love him. Corey Sandhagen's still one of the best. I love him and Dustin, but because you have the Dustin shirt, I'll give you Dustin. It's only right. It's Thanksgiving. I have to. I will give you Dustin. But yeah, I have to admit, that's a great point that you made. I'm just really thankful for the UFC and for every fighter, man or woman, who goes in there and gives their very best. We could sit here, we could say Valentina Shevchenko, Michael Chandler, Yuri Prochazka, Glover Teixeira. We could say every fighter and make a great case for them. But I'm really thankful for every fighter, especially in a really tough year like 2021 with COVID and with the way the world sadly is right now, hopefully not for much longer. The fact that these men and women go in and entertain us and put their very best on the line every week, every card, every month, every year. I'm really thankful for all of them. So whilst those are all great individual picks, and I very much agree with all of them, I do want to give a special thank you to all of them because they all deserve a lot of credit.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, speaking of Corey Sandhagen, I mean, we gotta give a shout out to Petr Yan as well for fighters we're most thankful for. He proves he's the best 135er on the planet and gives us the most controversial topic of the entire year. I mean, thank you, Petr Yan. That was amazing. I mean,
Whenever
yeah.
we do our awards in December, Petr Yan's going to be up for so many of them.
Yeah, a legal knee of the year for sure. Absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. As always, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. You can listen to us everywhere, literally everywhere, including iTunes and Spotify. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at MMA.island and check out our website, MMAisland.net. Massive shout out to our sponsors, MyBookie. Use our promo code MMA Island. Get in on this Thanksgiving, Cyber Monday, Black Friday deals. You can get started today. Thank you again, everyone, so much for listening. Great podcast, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing as always. Thank you, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving.